Years had passed since the storm had raged across the planet, and the once barren world had transformed into a thriving hub of human activity. Green fields stretched across valleys, small settlements dotted the horizon, and the terraforming relay pulsed steadily, a quiet heartbeat of life beneath the surface. Humans, guided by Eli Ward and aided by Kael'thar, had not only stabilized the planet, they had made it a home. Kael'thar stood atop a ridge overlooking the bustling settlements. The alien had aged in ways humans could not see. Time for him was different, yet the experiences had left their mark. He no longer observed humanity from a distance. He had worked beside them, learned from them, and in the process had been transformed by them. Eli, now older with streaks of silver in his hair, joined him silently. He leaned on a walking staff, a testament to years of dedication and service. Together they watched as children played in the fields, some human, some with subtle Varelian traits, a symbol of the growing unity between species. "Look at them," Eli said softly. "All of this, it started with a single choice. You helping me that first time? That small act created everything you see now." Kael'thar considered the words. To a Varelian, a single choice might seem insignificant in the grand scale of the galaxy. Yet here he saw the truth of humanity's nature. One action, one decision made with courage and care, could ripple outward and change countless lives. "It was necessary," Kael'thar said carefully, "but I did not expect this. I did not anticipate how far it would go." "That's humanity," Eli replied with a faint smile. "We don't always know what will happen. We act because it's right, or because we hope it might make a difference. And sometimes, just sometimes, it does more than we ever imagine." Kael'thar nodded, his eyes scanning the settlements below. Humans worked together, laughed together, and taught each other. Their unity was stronger than he had imagined, a force that could build, create, and protect. And Kael'thar knew that the bond they shared with him, an alien who had once been an outsider, was evidence of something extraordinary. One day, Eli brought Kael'thar to the center of the main settlement. There, a new structure had been erected. A library, a center for knowledge, technology, and history. Its walls were adorned with inscriptions, illustrations, and symbols representing the planet's transformation. "This is for you," Eli said, guiding Kael'thar inside, "and for all the humans and Varelians who made it possible. Your help didn't just save a relay, a planet, or even a species, it saved a future. This library is a symbol of gratitude, knowledge, and connection." Kael'thar walked through the corridors examining the displays. There were holographic records of the storm, diagrams of the relay, and accounts of the humans' perseverance. And in the center, a plaque bore a single simple message. "To Kael'thar, who helped humanity once, your courage and kindness are remembered forever." The alien's eyes glimmered. Words, emotions, and gratitude, all concepts he had observed but never fully understood, now felt real and profound. Humans did not just remember deeds. They celebrated them, taught them, and carried them forward. Eli placed a hand on Kael'thar's shoulder. "You see, Kael'thar, the reward isn't gold or honor or titles. It's this, the knowledge that your actions mattered, that you helped shape the future. And humanity remembers those who do." Kael'thar felt a warmth unlike anything he had ever experienced. It was not pride in the conventional sense. It was something deeper, something that connected him to humanity in ways that words could barely describe. He had helped once, but the memory of that act and the gratitude it inspired had transformed his life. Over time, humans and Varelians worked side by side across the planet. Kael'thar taught advanced technology, energy management, and environmental control, while humans contributed creativity, innovation, and determination. Together, they built schools, laboratories, and observatories, preparing the next generation for a future where cooperation, not conflict, would shape the galaxy. Kael'thar often reflected on the first day he had encountered Eli. He had been sent to observe, to record, and to follow rules. Instead, he had acted, and that single choice had sparked a chain of events that neither species could have predicted. The storm had tested them, but it had also revealed the best of both worlds: human courage, alien knowledge, and the power of working together. One evening, as the twin moons rose over the horizon, Kael'thar and Eli stood together on the ridge again. The settlements below glowed softly in the moonlight, a testament to the perseverance of life and the bond between species. You know, Eli said quietly, I've spent my life thinking about what it means to help someone, to make a difference. I always thought it was enough to act once, but now I see it's more than that. Every choice we make, every moment we act with courage and care, it builds something bigger. It ripples outward, changing the future. Kael'thar looked at him, understanding fully now. I see it too. Helping humanity once has changed me. It has given purpose, understanding, and connection. It is beyond measure, Eli smiled. And you are part of the story now. Your actions, your courage, your willingness to step forward, they will inspire generations. They already have. And humanity will never forget. In the years that followed, Kael'thar became a mentor, a teacher, and a symbol. Humans told stories of his courage, his intelligence, and his kindness. Young humans and Varelians alike learned about the alien who had helped humanity once, showing that even the smallest act of bravery could leave a lasting mark. The planet flourished. Forests grew, rivers flowed steadily, and cities rose in harmony with the environment. Technology advanced rapidly, but always with the understanding that compassion, cooperation, and courage were just as important as knowledge and skill. Kael'thar often walked among the children, listening to their questions, guiding their experiments, and encouraging them to dream. He realized that his reward was not something material. It was the joy of seeing life thrive, of witnessing humans and Varelians learn from each other, and of knowing that his actions had helped shape something extraordinary. One morning, Eli brought Kael'thar to the highest point on the planet, where a telescope overlooked the galaxy. Look at this, Eli said. You see those stars? Every one of them is a possibility, and somewhere out there humanity will reach them, because of the choices we make today, and because of the help we received along the way. Kael'thar gazed at the stars, feeling a sense of awe he had never experienced in data or observation. He had learned that helping humanity once was not just an action, it was a gift, a connection that could transform worlds and lives. You helped humanity once, Eli said softly, and humanity remembered. That's a reward no one can take away. It is not fleeting, not temporary, but lasting, eternal in its own way. Kael'thar nodded, understanding fully for the first time. The reward was not power, not recognition, not status. It was the knowledge that his actions mattered, that by helping even once he had created hope, inspired courage, and changed the future. The planet below thrived, the settlements glowed, and the people, human and alien alike, worked together, learned together, and dreamed together. The storm had passed, but its lessons endured. The courage of one human, the choice of one alien, and the bond they had formed had shaped a legacy that would last for generations. Kael'thar and Eli stood silently, watching the world they had helped protect. The twin moons rose higher, casting light across fields and forests, and the terraforming relay pulsed softly, a heartbeat beneath the surface. In that quiet moment, Kael'thar understood something profound. Helping humanity once was not an isolated act. It was the beginning of something far greater, a ripple that would echo through time, across worlds and into the hearts of all who witnessed it. And as he looked at Eli, at the children playing, and at the thriving planet, Kael'thar smiled. He had helped humanity once, they had remembered, and in remembering they had given him a reward beyond measure, a reward that would last forever. Elias Wren had always been considered soft. Among humans, that was sometimes a compliment, but in the halls of interstellar diplomacy, softness was a liability. When he arrived on the planet ZarkunPrime, his presence caused whispers and quiet laughter among alien delegates. Massive reptilian beings with scales like iron and eyes sharp as lasers regarded him with skepticism. Elias, however, walked steadily, carrying only a small satchel and a calm smile. He was the Terran ambassador, sent to negotiate a fragile peace with the Zarkun Dominion, a species known across the galaxy for their aggression. Where humans used words, Zarkun used strength. Where humans reasoned, Zarkun demanded obedience. And Elias? Elias used empathy. Soft, muttered a Zarkun council member, his tail curling around his chair like a whip. Do you think words will stop bloodshed? Elias met his gaze without flinching. Words are stronger than you think, he replied gently. They can save lives that force could never reach. The council laughed. Not a friendly laugh, but one that carried the weight of centuries of violence. The Zarkun people had conquered worlds, enslaved species, and even their own young were trained to fight from birth. To them, Elias's belief in dialogue was absurd, yet beneath the mocking eyes, Elias noticed something unusual. Among the Zarkuan warriors there were glimmers of curiosity. Some were hiding it carefully, but he saw it, a question forming in their minds, unspoken. Why does this human care so much? The first meeting was tense. The chamber was massive, with high ceilings that echoed the roar of the delegates. Elias entered alone, unarmed. His presence alone was a statement. He carried no weapon, no armor, only his human courage and steady resolve. Korvathul, the Zarkun general, towered above everyone else. His scales shimmered with a dark bronze color, and his muscles flexed with every movement. His eyes, sharp and calculating, landed on Elias, piercing through his calm exterior. "You are weak," Korvathul said, his voice low but heavy with authority. "Words do not win battles. Strength does." Elias inclined his head respectfully. "Perhaps. But strength without wisdom can destroy everything, and strength without compassion makes enemies where allies could exist," the council murmured. Elias's words were soft, but they carried weight. No human had ever spoken this way to the Zarkun. Some looked impressed. Others looked ready to strike. Then came the moment that would change everything. A sudden explosion shook the chamber. The walls trembled, dust falling from the ceiling. Delegates screamed and rushed for cover. Through the smoke and chaos, Elias saw a young Zarkun child trapped beneath a fallen beam. Instinct overcame strategy. Without a thought for his own safety, Elias ran through the debris and lifted the beam, shielding the child with his body. Pain shot through his leg and he stumbled, but he did not let go. The child, wide-eyed and frightened, clung to him. Around them the chamber burned, and humans and Zarkun alike were pinned by falling debris. Yet Elias remained calm, whispering soothing words, his voice steady even as dust filled the air. Korvathul arrived at the scene, his warriors following. Most froze, unsure how to react. Never had a human risked life for a Zarkun, especially not a young one. Elias held the child, sweat and blood mixing with dust, and looked up at the general. "Live," he said simply. "Protect them. That is the only victory worth winning." For a long moment, Korvathul stared, unblinking. His chest heaved as he processed what he had just witnessed. No Zarkun had done this before. To give one's life for another, not for glory or power. It was incomprehensible. The medics rushed in and pulled Elias and the child to safety. The human was injured but alive, and in that moment something inside Korvathul shifted. A spark of respect, small but undeniable, ignited in the heart of the apex predator. Later, as the council convened again, whispers filled the hall. Korvathul addressed Elias not as an enemy, but with a tone unfamiliar to the human. "You do not understand us," he said. "Your people are fragile. They would not survive the trials we face." Elias met his gaze, calm and unwavering. "Fragile, perhaps, but even the weakest can endure when they choose to protect others. Strength is not always measured in force." The council erupted in debate, but Korvathul silenced them with a sharp gesture. He left the chamber quietly, retreating to his private quarters. For hours he paced, thinking about the human who had faced death not with anger, but with courage and care. That night Korvathul walked through the city alone, recalling every detail of the explosion. The human had saved a Zarkun child, not a soldier, not a leader, but a child, and he had done so without hesitation, without expectation of reward. Korvathul realized that he had witnessed a kind of strength he had never understood, the power of selflessness. The thought haunted him, a being so fragile in appearance, so fearless in spirit. Meanwhile, Elias recovered in his quarters. He tended to his injuries with quiet determination, knowing that every action in this world carried consequences, yet he never doubted his choices. His people had taught him that the value of life was not measured in victories or medals, but in the willingness to act when others could not. As the sun rose over Zarkun Prime, painting the sky with shades of amber and gold, Elias looked out over the city. He did not see enemies, only beings struggling to survive in a harsh universe. And he resolved, silently but firmly, that he would show them, all of them, that strength could come from compassion, and that even the softest heart could shape the destiny of worlds. Unknown to Elias, In the shadows of the council halls, Corva Thule had begun observing him more closely. Not as a diplomat, not as an enemy, but as a student of a strange and alien strength. Something unspoken passed between them. A silent acknowledgement that this human whom everyone called soft might teach the galaxy a lesson the Zarkun had never learned, that mercy could be mightier than war. The first part of their story was ending, but the beginning of something much greater was just unfolding. Elias had survived the Council's trap, but the real trials were still ahead, and in the heart of the apex predator, a seed of respect, perhaps even friendship, had been planted. In the galaxy, whispers began to spread. The human is soft, yet fearless. He walks into fire for others and the predators notice. Watch carefully. He may change everything. And in that moment, Elias Wren, the man called weak, became the first spark of a story that would echo across worlds, a story of courage, compassion, and a strength no one had expected. The council chambers of Zarkun Prime were quiet now, but the tension in the air had not faded. The whispers about Elias Wren, the human considered soft, had reached even the deepest corners of the planet. Even the apex predator, General Corva Thule, could not stop thinking about the man who had risked his life for a Zarkun child. His warriors had fought battles, led raids, and conquered worlds, but none had ever seen such courage without aggression. Corva Thule had always believed strength was measured by dominance, by power, by the willingness to crush anything in your path. Yet Elias had challenged that belief with a single selfless act. Now the predator was curious, a feeling he rarely allowed himself. Curiosity, he knew, could be dangerous, but it also demanded action. The next morning, Corva Thule visited Elias in his quarters. The human was sitting quietly, reviewing diplomatic messages on a small holographic pad. He looked up and smiled politely, the faint trace of a bruise on his arm, the dust of the council chamber still clinging to his clothing. "You are awake," Corva Thule said, his voice calm but deep, rumbling like distant thunder. "I want answers. Why would you risk your life for one of mine?" Elias set aside the pad and gestured to a chair. "Because life is life," he said simply. "Strength is not in taking, but in protecting. That child did not ask to be born into your world or mine, but they deserve the chance to live just like anyone else." The general's golden eyes narrowed. "And yet your people would not survive in my world." "You are fragile in body," Elias admitted, "but not in spirit. And sometimes spirit is all it takes to survive where force alone fails." For hours, Corva Thule listened. He tested Elias with questions, trying to provoke anger or hesitation. Each time, Elias answered calmly with empathy and insight. Slowly, the predator began to see something different. The human's mind worked in ways unfamiliar to Zarkun's strategy. While they relied on intimidation and power, Elias relied on observation, anticipation, and understanding. Corva Thule realized that words alone would never reveal the truth. To test the human fully, he would need action. He led Elias to a massive arena on the outskirts of the city. The structure was colossal, carved from dark stone and reinforced with Zarkun alloy. It had been used for generations to train soldiers and determine dominance among warriors. The air was thick with the smell of metal, and the ground was covered in sand that had seen countless battles. "This is where strength is proven," Corva Thule said, gesturing to the open space. "Here the weak are exposed. Here the strong survive." Elias looked around calmly, unafraid. "And here I will show you a different kind of strength," he said. The general raised a clawed hand and a gate opened. From the shadows a creature emerged, massive, sleek, with wings like knives and teeth sharp enough to pierce armor. The Razor Wing, a predator even Corva Thule feared, glared at the humans and hissed, wings flaring. "Kill it," Corva Thule commanded. "Show me that you are strong. Or fail, and prove that your people are weak." Elias's eyes met the creature's, steady and unflinching. "I will not fight for glory," he said softly, "but I will act to protect." The Razor Wing lunged instantly, a blur of motion and danger. Zarkun warriors would have struck without hesitation, cutting down the creature before it could breathe. But Elias did not draw a weapon. Instead, he stepped aside, watching the creature's movements carefully, noting patterns, predicting its attacks. He moved with calm precision, placing sand traps and barriers, redirecting the Razor Wing's charges without hurting it. Every step, every gesture was calculated to control the situation without violence. Slowly, the creature's aggression began to falter, its sharp claws missing their mark, its wings slowing. Khor-Vathul watched in silence, his golden eyes widening. No human had ever faced a razor wing alone, and certainly none had done so without weapons. Yet Elias's movements were not random. He was learning, adapting, and responding with intelligence and empathy rather than brute force. Hours passed, though it felt like minutes. The arena echoed with the hiss of the razor wing and the calm words of the human, who now spoke softly to the creature. His voice was low, rhythmic, almost musical, soothing rather than commanding. Slowly, the razor wing stopped lunging. It tilted its head, studying Elias, and then, with a hiss that sounded almost like acknowledgement, it lowered its wings and stepped back. A hush fell over the arena. Warriors who had been certain the human would die now stared, unsure how to react. Khor-Vathul approached Elias slowly, his tail flicking in disbelief. "You have done what no Zarkun could," he said quietly. "You did not strike. You did not command. Yet the creature obeyed you." Elias smiled faintly. "I did not command. I understood." The predator's mind raced. Understanding, empathy, care. These were not part of the Zarkun way, yet here was a human, fragile in form, demonstrating strength that dwarfed even the most skilled warriors in the arena. "You have potential," Khor-Vathul said finally. "Potential I have not seen in centuries. Perhaps there is more to your species than I believed." Elias inclined his head. "Potential exists in all species. It is what we choose to cultivate that matters." For the first time, Khor-Vathul felt something foreign. Respect. Not respect born of fear, but respect born of recognition. The human had faced a predator far beyond his size and strength, yet he had prevailed through mind, spirit, and courage. The razor wing, now calm, returned to its enclosure. Elias stood alone in the arena, dust and sweat clinging to him, yet upright and proud. Khor-Vathul approached and extended a clawed hand, an offer of acknowledgement, not conquest. "You are not weak," the predator said. "Perhaps you are stronger than many of my kind." Elias shook the claw carefully, understanding the gesture. "Strength comes in many forms," he said. "Even those that seem soft may endure the hardest trials." Khor-Vathul left the arena silently, his mind burdened with thoughts he had never allowed himself to feel. Elias had passed the first test, not a test of strength in the Zarkun way, but a test of character, intelligence, and courage. The apex predator now faced a choice: continue to dismiss humans as weak, or begin to learn from them, as unusual and unpredictable as they were. In the following days, Khor-Vathul observed Elias more closely. He watched as the human mediated disputes, saved lives during training accidents, and even comforted Zarkun soldiers injured in practice. Each act challenged what the predator thought he knew about weakness and strength. The council began to notice subtle changes as well. Whispers grew quieter. Some members, initially vocal in their scorn, began to observe Elias with curiosity rather than mockery. The human who had been considered soft was slowly becoming a symbol, proof that courage and empathy could alter even the hearts of predators. And somewhere deep in the mind of Khor-Vathul, a plan began to form. He would test this human further, not with death or battle, but with responsibility. For if Elias Wren could survive this test, the predator knew he might prove that humanity itself could teach the galaxy lessons no warrior ever could. That night, as Elias lay in his quarters, he reflected on the day. He did not boast. He did not think himself a hero. But he felt a quiet certainty that his actions mattered. Somewhere, a predator who had ruled through fear was learning a new way. One guided not by dominance, but by respect. The next challenge was coming, and Elias knew it would not be easy. But he also knew this: courage was not the absence of fear, and strength was not always measured by power. Sometimes the greatest victories came from the quietest heart. And so, with the stars shining above GalacticPrime, Elias Wren prepared for what lay ahead. A predator had tested him, and he had passed. But the galaxy was vast, full of dangers and wonders alike, and the true test of humanity's heart had only just begun. The galaxy was changing faster than anyone had predicted. Reports of strange energy signatures and disappearing colonies had spread across human and Zarkuan networks alike. The scientists called it the Void Swarm. a mysterious force that consumed technology, life, and even entire planets if left unchecked. It was not an enemy in the usual sense. It was an unstoppable force, indifferent and consuming, leaving only silence behind. On Zarkun Prime, Korvathul convened a council in emergency. His warriors circled the chamber, tense and restless. Elias Wren was there, standing calmly amidst the tension, his presence alone commanding attention. "The Void Swarm approaches," Korvathul announced, his deep voice echoing against the high stone walls. "Our fleets cannot contain them alone. They consume without thought, without mercy. Even we may not survive." Some Zarkun members began to argue, their tails lashing with anger. "We will fight. We do not flee." Elias stepped forward. "We do not flee," he said gently, "but we also cannot fight without strategy. Alone, your strength is not enough. Alone, humans cannot match this threat. Together, we can survive." The council fell silent. Elias's words were calm but carried the weight of logic. In the room, humans and Zarkun stared at one another, realizing the truth. Survival required cooperation, not pride. Korvathul turned to Elias. "You speak of unity. How would you achieve it?" "Our species are not allies by nature," Elias smiled. "By proving that unity saves lives. Not just soldiers, not just leaders, but everyone. If we act together, we stand a chance. If we act divided, we die." The general considered this carefully. The human's calmness, his clarity, was unlike anything Korvathul had ever seen. The predator was used to command through fear. Elias commanded through reason, and now reason seemed more valuable than fear. Within hours, joint fleets of humans and Zarkun were mobilized. Elias coordinated communication between ships, using humans' advanced tactical systems and the Zarkuans' unparalleled combat experience. Despite their differences, the two species began to move as one. The galaxy was filled with tension, each ship ready, yet unsure if strategy alone would be enough. The first battle came near the edge of the human-colonized system Erythra Prime. Scouts reported a swarm of energy-based creatures approaching the planet, consuming automated mining stations and leaving orbiting debris in their wake. Elias watched the holographic display aboard the command ship Horizon, calculating patterns, predicting trajectories. "They are not attacking randomly," he said. "They consume the largest concentration of energy first. If we disperse their path, we can slow them down." Korvathul tilted his massive head. "And the smaller ships? They will be destroyed?" Elias shook his head. "No. We use the smaller ships as decoys to guide the swarm. They draw attention, while larger fleets target the swarm's energy clusters. Timing is everything." The Zarkun warriors grumbled. They preferred direct assault, speed, power, and domination. But the human strategy was unusual and precise. Hesitant at first, Korvathul agreed. "We follow your plan. If it fails, it is your head," he said with a rare half-smile. The battle began in orbit above Erythra Prime. The void swarm descended like a living storm, consuming metal and energy. At first, the combined fleet struggled. Zarkun ships were fast but lacked the coordination humans required. Human ships were precise but vulnerable without protection. Elias barked orders calmly, directing movements with precision, while Korvathul led the front line, encouraging warriors who had never taken orders from anyone but themselves. Hours passed. Ships maneuvered, attacked, retreated, and adjusted. The void swarm was relentless, but the humans' strategy began to show results. Energy clusters were destroyed, the swarm was confused, and smaller ships guided it into traps. Korvathul observed Elias throughout the fight. The human did not flinch, even as blasts of energy rocked the command bridge. He remained focused, making adjustments, saving lives without hesitation. When one of the Zarkun vessels was nearly destroyed, Elias calculated a rescue maneuver and coordinated the ship's escape, saving hundreds of warriors. For Korvathul, it was a revelation. A human called Soft had saved more Zarkun lives in one battle than many warriors could in a lifetime. And yet Elias did not seek praise. He only acted as though instinct and morality guided him naturally. By the end of the first day, the swarm had been pushed back. Planets that had seemed doomed were spared. Victory was small but significant. Proof that cooperation between species could succeed against even an alien, unstoppable force. But the struggle was far from over. The Void Swarm's queen ship, A massive entity of pulsating energy and shifting metal had been detected moving toward the Zarkuan capital. If it reached the city, billions of lives would be lost. Korvathul turned to Elias, his eyes serious. "This is your choice, human," he said. "Do we fight knowing the risks? Or do we retreat and save what we can?" Elias did not hesitate. "We fight. Together, all of us. We cannot leave the capital to be consumed." And retreating would only spread fear and chaos. The general nodded. He had come to trust the human's judgment, not blindly, but with recognition of his wisdom and courage. Orders were issued. Human and Zarkuan fleets prepared for the decisive battle. During the preparations, Elias walked through the ships, speaking to the crew and warriors. He comforted nervous soldiers, encouraged leaders, and reminded everyone that courage was not the absence of fear, but the willingness to act despite it. His words inspired the Zarkan in a way that no battlefield speech had ever done. For the first time, they saw humans not as weak, but as equals capable of leading and protecting. As the fleets approached the Void Swarm's queen, Elias and Korvathul coordinated their strategy. The human provided the plan. The Predator executed it with unmatched precision and strength. Ships moved in perfect synchronization, flanking the swarm, guiding its energy flows into traps and weakening its defenses without unnecessary loss of life. Finally, the decisive moment arrived. Elias spotted a vulnerable energy node in the queen ship, a core that powered the swarm's relentless advance. Using precise timing, combined forces of humans and Zarkans struck the node, creating a chain reaction that destabilized the swarm's structure. The queen ship collapsed inward, a brilliant flash of light followed by silence. For the first time, the Void Swarm had been defeated, not by raw power alone, but by strategy, coordination, and the human heart that had inspired warriors to act together. Korvathul and Elias watched from orbit as the swarm disintegrated. Silence filled the bridge, broken only by the sound of relief and the soft hum of surviving ships. For Korvathul, it was a moment of revelation. He turned to Elias, his voice low and almost reverent. "You have changed everything," he said. "You're kind. Maybe soft in appearance, but you carry the strength to unite worlds." Elias smiled, but he did not claim glory. "Strength is not mine alone," he said. "It belongs to all who choose to protect, to cooperate, and to act when it matters most." For the first time, Korvathul truly understood what the human had shown him. It was not brute force that made a species strong, but heart, courage, and the ability to inspire others. In the fires of war, Elias's compassion had become the greatest weapon the galaxy had ever seen. As the fleets regrouped, human and Zarkuan soldiers worked side by side to repair ships and aid those injured. The bond between species was growing, built not on fear or dominance, but on respect and shared purpose. Even the warriors who had once doubted Elias now looked at him with awe. He had not just survived the battle, he had taught them the meaning of true strength. That night, as stars twinkled over the recovering worlds, Korvathul and Elias stood together on the bridge of the Zarkuan flagship. Silence stretched between them, comfortable and full of unspoken understanding. "You will see," Elias said softly, gazing at the stars. "There will be more trials, harder than this. But together we can face them." The Predator nodded. "And I will follow you, human. Not because you command me, but because I respect you. And because your heart is stronger than any weapon I have ever known." The war was far from over. The Void Swarm had been repelled, but their queen ship was only one part of a mysterious and dangerous force. Yet in that moment, human and Predator alike understood a fundamental truth. Together, with courage and compassion, even the galaxy's most terrifying threats could be faced. And so, the war of survival continued, but for the first time, humans and Zarkuan fought not as enemies or strangers, but as allies united by trust, respect, and the belief that even the softest heart could shape the fate of worlds. The galaxy was quiet for a moment, but only just. Though the Void Swarm's queen had been destroyed, signs of the swarm lingered in deep space. Many systems were recovering, but none more threatened than the Zarkuan capital itself. Intelligence reports indicated that a new swarm fleet, larger and more coordinated than before, was heading directly toward the homeworld. It moved faster than any prior assault, driven by a single, unstoppable purpose. General Korvathul stood on the command deck of his flagship, muscles coiled and eyes scanning star charts. Around him, the Zarkon fleet was preparing, warriors pacing and issuing commands, their claws scratching the metallic decks. Elias Wren stood beside him, calm as ever, reviewing holographic projections and coordinating human reinforcements. "This is the true test," Corvathul said quietly, almost to himself. "If this fleet reaches the city, billions will be lost. Not as soldiers, but as innocents." Elias did not flinch. "We can stop them," he said confidently. "If we combine our tactics, coordinate our attacks, and protect civilians, we can survive. And more than that, we can show the galaxy the power of unity." The apex predator regarded him carefully. "You speak as though you do not fear the end," he said. "Do you?" Elias shook his head. "Fear exists for all, but courage is acting despite fear, and hope. Hope is choosing to act for others, not yourself." Corvathul felt a strange warmth in his chest, a feeling he had never allowed himself. Respect, yes, but something deeper, something like admiration and trust. He nodded. "Then let us act, together." The fleets moved into position. Human ships took the outer perimeter, forming protective lines and scanning the approach for anomalies. Zarkon warships positioned themselves in the inner rings, prepared to strike with unmatched force. Command protocols were synchronized, human AI systems linking with Zarkon tactical networks. Every ship, every fighter, every pilot and soldier relied on the coordination Elias had envisioned. As the void swarm approached, its energy shifted, creating a haunting glow across the blackness of space. Ships trembled in response. Many of the Zarkon warriors had never faced an enemy so strange and powerful, but Elias moved among them, issuing orders and encouragement with calm authority. "Stay focused," he said. "Protect the civilians. Protect each other. And trust that strength is more than force, and it is intelligence and heart combined." The first attack came as expected. Energy tendrils from the swarm reached toward the perimeter, consuming a small scouting ship. Human pilots executed evasive maneuvers while Zarkon vessels intercepted the tendrils, striking them with precision. Ships shook and rattled, but no one panicked. The strategy was working. Hours passed in a tense rhythm. The fleets pushed the swarm back, but the enemy adapted, forming into patterns that threatened to breach the inner defenses. It was then that Elias spotted a critical vulnerability in the swarm's formation. A central energy core within the Queen vessel directing the swarm's movement. If they could disable it, the swarm would collapse. "This is it," Elias said to Corvathul. "We target the core. The risk is high, but if we succeed, we save billions." The Predator considered for only a moment. "I will lead the charge," he said. "You coordinate the fleet. We will strike together." The plan was simple but dangerous. Zarkon warships would form a protective formation around the flagship, shielding Elias as he directed precise attacks on the Queen's core. Human ships provided the targeting and timing for energy pulses designed to destabilize it. Every move had to be perfect or the swarm would overwhelm them. The battle began. Corvathul's flagship surged forward, cutting through the swarm with unmatched power while Elias's calm voice echoed across communications channels. "Align the pulse frequencies. Target the core's energy clusters. Protect civilians at all costs." The swarm fought back with ferocity. Energy tendrils lashed at ships, pulling them toward destruction. Smaller vessels were damaged or destroyed, but none were left behind. Every pilot was accounted for, every crew member rescued where possible. The humans' precision and the Zarkon's strength worked in harmony, a perfect balance of strategy and power. Finally, the moment arrived. Elias identified a weak point in the Queen's core. With coordinated fire, human and Zarkon ships struck simultaneously. Energy pulses struck the core, destabilizing it. But the Queen reacted violently, sending a shockwave that threatened Corvathul's flagship. "Evacuate the bridge," shouted a Zarkon officer. Corvathul turned to Elias. "You go. Survive." "I cannot," Elias replied. "Not until we ensure the fleet and civilians are safe." For a moment, the Predator hesitated. Never before had he faced such selflessness. Then, without another word, he broke protocol. With incredible speed and strength, he shielded Elias from the shockwave, carrying him to safety while continuing to command the fleet. Together, they coordinated the final strikes. The Queen's core exploded in a controlled implosion, and the swarm collapsed inward, disintegrating across the void of space. The galaxy was silent again, save for the hum of surviving ships. The victory was immense, but more than that, it was symbolic. Human and Zarkun had stood side by side, facing impossible odds, and emerged victorious. Korvathul looked at Elias, now bloodied and exhausted but standing tall, and made a decision that would echo through history. He drew a ceremonial blade from his side, a sacred weapon only shared among equals, marked with symbols of honor and unity. He approached Elias and placed a hand, clawed and large, over the human's shoulder. "From this day forward," he said, voice steady and deep, "you are blood brother of the Zarkuan. Your courage, your heart, your strength of spirit, these have earned my respect and the respect of my people. You are no longer merely human in our eyes. You are family." Elias was speechless. He had faced death and saved countless lives, but this honor was beyond anything he had imagined. "I am honored," he said simply, bowing slightly. Korvathul's warriors watched silently, many shifting uncomfortably. Such a gesture had never been made to an outsider, let alone a human. Yet none could argue with the truth. Elias had earned it. Not with force, but with courage, compassion, and wisdom. Over the following days, celebrations were held across both species' fleets. Stories spread of Elias Wren, the human who had stood with predators and led them to victory, and of the bond forged between him and Korvathul. Children and soldiers alike learned the lesson that strength is not only physical, but moral, emotional, and strategic. Korvathul and Elias continued to work together, planning the defense of recovering systems and teaching younger warriors the principles of trust, cooperation, and courage. The bond between them grew deeper with each passing day, a bond not of words, but of deeds, forged in the heat of impossible battles. And as they watched the stars above Zarkun Prime, both understood the truth. The galaxy had changed. The notion of human weakness had been shattered, replaced with respect and awe. The apex predator had learned that compassion was not a liability, but a power that could shape the destiny of worlds. Elias had faced impossible odds, saved billions, and united two very different species. And in the heart of the predator who once judged him weak, a silent vow was made, to protect this human, this friend, and to ensure that the story of their bond would echo across generations. The war was far from over. New threats would arise and new challenges would test every alliance. But in that moment, humanity and the Zarkuan had proven something vital, that courage, heart, and unity could overcome even the galaxy's most terrifying dangers. And so, amidst the calm after victory, the legend of Elias Wren and Korvathul, blood brothers of the Zarkuan, began to spread in a story of hope, of strength, and of the true power of the human heart.